Welcome to Deutsche GOLDMESSE. We're here in our little lobby lounge studio setup, and I'm joined by Adam Spencer. He's the Executive VP over at Montage Gold. Adam, it's great to have you. Welcome to Germany.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kai. It's been great.
It's great having you. It's like great turnout, 26 companies, 200 investors roughly. I know your schedule is packed. So
it is jam-packed, back to back. It's the way I like it.
Awesome. Let's get it updated because we're in person. Might as well do it.
Yeah.
Because usually I have to call Hugh, your president, down in Ivory Coast via satellite, and always a bit iffy. Let's do it in person. Right?
Sounds good.
You guys have had tremendous success in recent months, raising $18 million, I think, just to kick things off. In my opening keynote, or in my opening remarks today at Deutsche GOLDMESSE, I said, financing is still not easy. So my first question is, tell us about that $18 million financing. How did it come about, and how easy was it?
Yeah, I mean, look, the financings, I guess, are never easy, but we have tremendous shareholder backing, groups that have funded us through multiple rounds that continue to fund us, buy stock in the market, and so on. So when it comes time for us to raise money, we're very confident in our abilities to do so. And of the money that we raised, which was just over 17, 12 of that went to institutional investors, some of which were completely new to the story that we've been, having discussions with really over the last couple of years. And I guess finally kind of met their threshold to make an initial investment. So it's great to have some well-known institutions on the register. And then the balance, call it $5 million, were from subscriptions from existing shareholders, directors and officers making up a significant portion of that, which is, kind of the way that we've raised money in the past. We all write checks in the financings, and because we continue to do that, the rest of our shareholders tend to follow.
Tell me a bit more. I got to, probe you a little bit. It's Tell me about the new shareholders, because the market, we just hit all-time highs in gold again. We just touched on it. We didn't break through it, but we touched on it. So I'm curious, when you say new shareholders, are those shareholders that have been in the space forever, or actually new investors?
Yeah, I mean, without naming names, no. Certainly some large fund managers that have been investing in the precious metal space for decades, and groups that have made a lot of money within our group over that time frame. Certainly some of the shareholders that we brought in the latest financing are coming into Montage for the first time, but they are groups that have made a lot of money with Rick Clark in the past, both on Redback Mining, which was obviously the big success back in 2010, but then also investors that participate in the work of gold as well.
Now, the reason I ask is to get a sense for sentiment.
Yeah, a sentiment, I think it's building. I think if you look at the market trading of the junior space right now, I wouldn't say that it's taking off quite yet, but before that happens, there has to be lots of kind of conversations like this and more engagement with shareholders and potential investors before you see the market take off. And I think that's the phase that we're in right now. Certainly, we're getting a lot of interest in the story. The story presents very well. I feel like people are kind of starting to position themselves, whether they want to make a call and buy in now, or make a call and buy in when, the entire sector is taking off, remains to be seen. But, sentiment in terms of the conversations that we're having is very positive. I think we're all just waiting to see that really translate into a market move.
No, absolutely. No. A little over 17 million, you said you raised. So the question now is, of course, use of proceeds. It's a lot of money. What's the plan?
Yeah, the plan is simple. It's going to be explore. As you know, we did consolidate 1,000 square kilometers of ground in a deal with Barrick and Endeavour, which finally closed in November of last year. And we've been drilling aggressively in the time since. And so this funding really allows us to continue to do that. Our targets now are high-grade satellite pits that can be trucked to the Koné area where the mill will eventually be built. That will significantly enhance the economics. And so the intention is, over the course of this year, continue to drill, at a point in time, cut things off from a resource perspective to feed into a revised feasibility study that we would aim to publish by the end of this year or early next year. And that being kind of the key catalyst to then go into the permitting process to permit the project.
Okay. Run us a bit through the timelines. You mentioned, feasibility study late this year, early next. Permitting timeline, Ivory Coast is not Nevada, is not Arizona, right? So run us a bit through that, and what can we expect there?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Côte d'Ivoire is that there's several very recent examples of projects getting permitted very quickly. And the two I point to often are Sigella, which is our neighbor to the south. It's about 90 kilometers south of us. Was advanced first by Roxgold, and now Fortuna owns it. That project was permitted in the span of around 9 months. And then the other example would be Tieto, which was permitted in the span of 6 to 9 months. Wow. That's in country as well. So yeah, Côte d'Ivoire stands out for a number of reasons. One main reason is that they are very pro-development. The permitting process, although thorough, can be done very, very quickly. Certainly compared to other jurisdictions where you can be waiting years for a permit. That's not the case in Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay. Yeah. Trying to figure, like coming back sort of almost to sentiment as well, because we were seeing now Newmont buying Newcrest. It feels like the corporates are getting a little more active. Like also what I'm hearing, conversations, site visits taking place, standard stuff, but it seems like it's happening more often, right? So my question is now, since you're Executive VP Corp Development, you have a lot of these conversations, and don't share any names or anything, but I'm just curious if the phone has been ringing more, if those conversations have intensified in general. And I'm sure you're talking with a lot of bankers as well, because they want to get deals done. Have bankers been calling more often than they used to?
Well, I guess just to your first point, I think sentiment for M&A is building, and one big factor for that is obviously the gold price where it's at, right? And the producers get the most immediate benefit from that in generating record cash flows. And what are you going to do with those cash flows? If you have a portfolio of projects yourself, you'll probably divert some cash into those development projects. But then, if your pipeline's running short, then you need to look externally. And because of all the attributes of our Koné project, yeah, there is quite a bit of corporate interest in that asset, and there should be. On the base case, it's 15-year mine life with scale to produce 300,000 ounces a year for the foreseeable future, with tremendous exploration upside, and in a great jurisdiction with a number of players already in it. So to your question about intensity or frequency of discussions, not really going to get into a lot of detail on that, but suffice it to say that we believe we have a great project that should ultimately be of interest to any number of corporates, and I think that's starting to show. No.
So sentiment for me is, I know the bankers are all hustling. They're trying to get deals done.
Yeah.
Right. Because they feel like they can actually get a deal done.
Right. If there's a window.
Right? Yeah. So that was more the question. Of course, I didn't want to put you on the spot and say, when deal, Adam, right? But
yeah. For us, I guess bankers are chasing primarily two deals. Financings when they can be opportunistic, and then M&A. We're not in a phase right now where we're actively seeking an M&A transaction. And then back to the financing point, because of the way that we raise money, where predominantly we're doing it from existing shareholders, we're a bit unique in that respect. We're not waiting for bankers to come to us to say, hey, there's a market window, do you want to raise money? It's really actually the reverse, where we'll go to a banker and say, look, it's time for us to raise money. And by the way, we've got, insiders and existing shareholders that are likely going to be there for most of the financing. It's time.
I know
it
was a bought deal, but it felt like a brought deal.
Brought deal. I like that term. That is, that's the way it came together essentially back in June when we raised $20 million, and essentially the same this time around too. It's great to have that type of strength within our group, where I think in really any market environment, we're confident we can raise money. Again, because as I said, we all write big checks in the financing. So unless we're convicted, why would anyone else be? And because we're so convicted on what we do, everyone tends to come in, which is great.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You mentioned feasibility study late this year, early next. Question I have to ask, like resource update concurrently with the feasibility study, or is that going to be an event prior to that? Yeah, maybe around conference season.
Hard to say at this stage, but I'd say at the very least in conjunction with the updated feasibility, because of course, if we're factoring in Bongogo Main into that study, it's going to have a reserve. We're doing all the drilling now to kind of get it to the phase where we have an indicated resource or better to calculate the reserves. Whether we issue a standalone update on that prior to the feasibility or not remains to be seen. But I mean, here we are. It's we're into May now anyway. So the timing for the release of the updated feasibility is call it six plus months out. It's not that far.
Yeah.
Right. So there will be an update at least by that point in time, and potentially earlier on the resource side. But yeah, I don't want to say either way if it's going to happen or not.
No, fair enough. Since I have you, next news flow, next news items, anything?
Yeah, it's drill results for the time being. We're still drilling very aggressively, certainly around Bongogo Main. where we're looking to, upgrade and hopefully improve upon that resource. And then also a lot of reconnaissance drilling around that land package. As you know, it's 1,000 square kilometers, lots of areas to drill, and our approach is layered, where we'll do reconnaissance drilling, which is cheap, $20 to $25 a meter, where we see grade and continuity and resource potential from that work. We'll then follow up with RC deeper drilling, and then of course take it from there. So yeah, I mean, it's in the near term, it's drill results, and then near the end of the year, it'll be more news around the updated feasibility study.
Fantastic. Awesome. Yeah. Adam, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thanks
Great
for having
update.
me.
It was great to have you on. And in person is always better as well.
I agree. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks
Thank you
a
so
lot.
much. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. DEUTSCHE GOLDMESSE here in Frankfurt, a Soar Financial special. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have lots more conversations, fireside chats, and company updates coming. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit that like button as well. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.